Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm here to teach you how to play Tzolk'in, Tribes and Prophecies, the first expansion for the game Tzolk'in, the Mayan calendar. First, Tribes. At the beginning of the game, each player will be dealt 2 tribe cards along with their 4 starting wealth tiles. Each tribe gives a player a persistent power they can use throughout the entire game. Choose carefully. You can only choose one of these 2 tribes. What each tribe does is self-explanatory. Literally, it explains what it does on the card, and then it even has helpful pictures to help explain them. The 2 basic parts of the Tribes and Prophecies expansion are Tribes, which you see on your left, and Prophecies, which you see on your right. There are some other minor additions, but we'll get to those later. Prophecies are a little more complicated. At the beginning of the game, 3 random prophecies will be dealt from a shuffled deck of the prophecies and put onto each of these 3 spaces on the prophecy track. What you'll see here is a little chain of prophecy throughout the game. You'll notice that there's 4 tabs on the right, each one denoting a fourth of the game. The brown ones are the first harvest and the third harvest, and these bluish-green ones are the scoring rounds. So starting with the first quarter of the game, there will be no prophecy. The second quarter, this one will be in effect. The third, this one will be in effect. And the fourth, this one will be in effect. Each prophecy has a couple different sections telling you about it. The top of it tells you what disadvantage that prophecy will give all players. The bottom section will show how many points will be in store if people circumvent that disadvantage. For example, in this prophecy, every time you go up the technology track, it costs an extra resource during the section of the game. But you will score points based on how many tech levels you have. From a whopping 13 for having 7 plus total tech levels to negative 5 points for only having 0 to 2. There are a variety of symbols on the prophecy cards. Some of them are all new to the expansion. I'm not going to go through all of the symbols because they're all listed in the back of the instruction booklet, and they're explained very well, just like in the base Tzolk'in game. Another thing included in the expansion are 8 brand new buildings, 4 for the first half of the game, and 4 for the second. The buildings for the first half of the game all have new symbols and notation that you'll have to understand. These symbols here show that you'll receive this resource during each of these harvesting times. So during every brown harvest and every green scoring round, you will receive a stone. You do not receive the stone when you first buy the building. The other thing all these new buildings show are these symbols right here. What those mean are that these buildings can be renovated into new buildings or monuments. How to renovate? When you buy a new building or monument, you can discard this building that you have already built to discount yourself the resources shown in the upper left, the ones that it cost you to buy the building. So if you were to try to build a new building, you could sacrifice this building to get a 2 gold discount. You do not receive any change from this. If you build a building that only costs 1 gold, you don't get an extra gold into your supply. The last thing the expansion offers is a way to play the game with 5 players. In addition to including a 5th player color with 6 workers and all the little markers you'll need to give them technology tracks and scoring tracks, it comes with this little innovation. This will be put on the board in place of the old first player spot. And as you can see, this includes a new slot right here. To use this new 5th player module, we'll be using these tiles here. There will be about 6 tiles with 1 dot on the back, signifying the first half of the game, just like the buildings, and 6 of them with 2 dots in the back, signifying the second half of the game. At the beginning of the game, the 7 tiles with the single dot on their back will be set up thusly, with the first tile being aligned with the first space here. Now, how this works is that every time you move the gear and the arrow here points to one of these tiles, you will take the tile off of the board and place it here. So for about 2 rounds each, these tiles will be in play. What these quick action tiles are showing you are actions you can perform and the cost to perform those actions. Now, when you use the quick action tile, just like when you place your marker on the first player section, you get that worker back at the end of your turn. You also get to enact whatever action this was during that turn. Every single quick action space costs 1 corn. So every time you want to use whatever action is in the quick action space, it'll cost you 1 corn, regardless of which of these 3 spaces that you've taken. If all 3 spaces are filled by other people's workers or your own, you can no longer use the quick action. Notice that above the quick action, there is this picture. No technologies pertain to the quick action marker. So if you are performing an action where you get to build a building, you do not get any of the benefits of your building technologies, and so forth. Once you get to the first harvest on the dial, and there are only 3 quick action markers remaining, you will then set up all of the markers with the 2 dots on their back, like so, after the last of the first markers on your wheel. Notice that this last quick action marker ends a space before the final round, so barring any sort of round skips, this last quick action will be in effect for 3 turns as opposed to 2 as the rest of them are. If you want to use the quick action board, but aren't playing with the full complement of 5 players, you can do so. All that's required is you have to add a 5th player worth of dummy player tokens onto the board, just as you would add any sort of dummy player tokens in the base game. However, some of the dummy player tokens will be applied to the quick action board, as determined in your rulebook. And that is that. All in all, a pretty simple expansion. You get some tribes, you get some prophecies, and a couple extra things. This was Matt, and I hope this taught you something.